During the dark days of the 1930s, the government banned these meals and released countless pamphlets telling Americans how to eat on a budget. But there was a hidden list of forbidden meals, dishes that the authorities actively discouraged because they relied on total independence, wild harvesting, and black market resourcefulness. If you knew these secrets, you didn't need the government's breadlines or their strict rationing, and that made you a threat to their control. Today we are uncovering the recipes they tried to bury, the meals that kept families thriving while the official advice left them hungry. We're stepping into the shadows of history to reveal the 10 survival meals that proved the American spirit couldn't be regulated. You'll want to stay until the very end, because the meal at number 2 was actually considered a public health incident, because it allowed people to bypass the meat industry entirely. Number 10. The unregulated backyard rabbit. Government officials pushed people to buy industrial meats, but the secret to survival was the backyard rabbit hutch. To make this, you'd slow stew the meat with wild onions and a handful of garden herbs until the bones fell away. The shocking thing is that the government actually tried to tax and limit small-scale rabbit farming because it made families too independent from the commercial food chain. It's a lean, powerful protein source that cost absolutely nothing to produce. Number 9. Moonshine stew. When the grain supply was strictly monitored, people used the spent mash from illegal stills to create a thick, fermented porridge. You'd boil the fermented corn with a little salt and whatever scrap fat you had saved. The interesting part is that this meal was technically illegal because it contained trace amounts of alcohol and untaxed grain. It provided a massive caloric hit and a bit of liquid courage during the most desperate nights of the winter. Number 8. The wild porridge, forage grain. Instead of buying government-approved flour, people went into the fields to harvest wild oats and rye that were considered weeds by the Department of Agriculture. You'd grind the seeds between 2 flat stones and boil them into a heavy, dark mush that lasted for days without spoiling. The shocking reality is that this wild grain was actually more nutritious than the bleached white flour the government was handing out. It was the taste of true, unmonitored freedom. Number 7. The roadside snapping turtle meat was a high-protein miracle, but officials warned against it, claiming it was unsanitary for the modern citizen. Families ignored the warnings, cleaning the meat thoroughly and simmering it in a pot of vinegar and peppers for hours. The shocking thing is that a single large turtle could feed a family of 6 for 3 days. It was a forbidden feast that proved the earth provides everything you need if you aren't afraid to get your hands dirty. Number 6. The scrap tallow candle, edible light. In the deepest poverty, people made candles out of rendered beef fat that were actually dual purpose. If things got truly desperate, you could melt the candle down and use the tallow as a high-calorie cooking oil, or even eat it plain. The interesting part is that the government discouraged this because they wanted people buying commercial kerosene and oils. It's the ultimate survival hack, a light source that can also save you from starvation. Number 5. Cemetery greens. During the Great Hunger, people realized that the most fertile soil was often in local cemeteries, where wild spinach and dandelions grew in abundance. They would harvest these sacred greens at night to avoid being harassed by local authorities, who deemed the practice ghoulish. The shocking reality is that these greens were packed with the minerals needed to keep the heart strong. It was a meal that literally rose from the earth to save the living. Number 4. The tax-free, salt-cured fish. If you lived near water, you could catch fish and bury them in layers of coarse, unrefined sea salt to preserve them for months. The government hated this because it bypassed the tax salt distribution networks and the commercial canning industry. The shocking truth is that this fish was so well preserved it didn't need a single second of refrigeration. It was a quiet act of rebellion that kept the dinner plate full. Number 3. Skunk cabbage, the last resort. When every other plant was dead, people turned to skunk cabbage, a plant that generates its own heat to grow through the snow. You had to boil it in 3 different changes of water to remove the toxins and the smell. But what remained was a soft, cabbage-like vegetable. The interesting thing is that officials warned this was inedible, yet thousands of families used it to survive the hungry months of late winter. It was the meal that grew when nothing else could. Number 2, the banned mock sausage. This is the one that really upset the meat industry. By mixing crushed walnuts, breadcrumbs, and a specific blend of herbs, grandmothers created a patty that tasted exactly like pork. The shocking truth is that the meat lobby actually pushed for purity laws to stop people from selling or serving these fakes in public. It allowed families to have the taste and protein of a butcher shop without ever spending a dime at one. It was the ultimate illegal recipe for the poor. Number 1, the resurrection squirrel. Stew squirrel was the silver bullet of the Depression kitchen, but the government tried to discourage its consumption to promote civilized farming. To make this, you'd slow cook the meat with wild carrots and a dash of cider vinegar until it was as tender as high-end veal. The amazing thing is that squirrel is one of the cleanest, most nutrient-dense meats in North America. It kept the American frontier alive for centuries, and it kept the Depression-era families standing when the stores were empty. The government told people to wait in line, but our ancestors decided to walk into the woods instead. These 10 forbidden meals are a reminder that the most powerful thing you can own isn't a bank account. It's the knowledge of how to provide for yourself. They wanted people to be consumers, but a generation of survivors chose to be creators instead. As we look at the world today, these old stories of independence are more important than ever. They remind us that no matter how hard the times get, the earth and your own 2 hands are enough to get you through. We are the descendants of the people who refused to be told what they could and couldn't cook. If your family has a story of unusual survival, maybe a meal that sounds strange today but saved lives back then, please share it in the comments. We are archiving the real history of America here. Thank you for watching Lost American Memories. Hit that subscribe button to stay independent. And until next time, keep your secrets close and your kitchen fires burning.